Do you know what your balance ended on February 29th with?
What?
Negative $14.40. What is Lucky Land?
That's the casino.
You're going to the casino right now?
You know what, Bailey? I actually invested $20 a couple years back, and I end up winning $5,000.
Elena, welcome to the show.
I am currently 41, and I'm from Indiana.
What do you do for a living?
1099 contractors, so I do customer service work and sales from phone.
And how much you make?
It's $14 an hour.
And how many hours a week are you working right now?
Right now, about 25. Unfortunately, they have cut back a lot of hours for the agents. So I'm kind of, trying to balance that and in between like finding other work.
Bringing in what, $1,200 to $1,400 a month roughly?
Yes, about $1,200 monthly.
How are we surviving right now on $1,200 a month?
No, it's pretty challenging because I'm a single mother of two. Yeah, I don't get any outside support, any child support, nothing like that.
I can only imagine having two children and bringing in $1,200 a month is not easy to make ends meet if you're making ends meet. And we'll kind of dive into your financial situation here in a second. But how long have you currently been a 1099 contractor doing these different customer service roles? And what did you do prior to that?
Definitely, I want to say about a total of 4 years now. And I've always been in telemarketing, sales, or either customer service.
So over the last 4 years, what has your income looked like doing these various roles?
Kind of I guess like fluctuating maybe between, I'd say maybe from 1,200 to 1,700, kind of fluctuate like monthly throughout the years.
Okay, so you've always been in that ballpark. Then how have you guys been making ends meet if you're making $1,200 to $1,700 a month for the last couple of years? I mean, that's about $15,000 to $20,000 a year. I feel like it's not manageable to survive, pay rent, afford to feed, put food on the table for you and your children. So what has life been looking like the last couple of years?
I would say right now, as of now, I kind of finally got to the point where it's not so challenging, just a tad bit. I've had to cut back on a lot of things. Right now, I'm in like a single mother affordable apartment unit. So because of that, I don't pay rent. So that helps a lot. I was paying like $400 a month for rent, having two daughters, teenage daughters. And not only did I have to do personal products for myself, but for them too. Phone, light bill, extra hobbies and things that they wanted to do. So it hasn't been easy.
Glad that you found some resources like the apartment unit that has helped and supported you. Now we got to figure out how do we get you to a better spot from where you're at right now so you can enjoy life. So how would you rate your current financial situation on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being horrific, 10 being picture perfect.
I would say probably a 6 right now.
Well, on that, let's kind of dive into current assets and debts then and figure out what does this financial picture look like and where can we go from here. So current debts, do we have any debts right now? Any personal loans, student loans, credit card debts?
It's been, I want to say roughly about like almost 4 years now. The credit card debt is 4 years old, but they've all gone to collection. So the total debt with my credit card debt is probably between $7,000 and $8,000.
And are they still calling you about that, or what's the current word on that?
Yes. I've been getting my credit work done for about 8 months now. My credit actually went from 400 to 600 within probably about 5 months. So I'm, trying to get that established, get credit established as well.
We'll talk about credit score later on in the show, but I'm definitely curious just for us to talk about why are you aiming to improve your credit score? What is that benefits you see in your life? So we'll definitely talk about that a little bit later on. But collections, credit card debt and collections is not a good spot to be in because they're going to try to get that money from you no matter what, whether it's trying to garnish your wages, taking money from your bank account. If you get full-time employed, they can definitely garnish those. And that's money that you signed up for. You swipe that card and said, hey, I'm going to pay it back. And currently you haven't paid it back and it's been 4 years. So we got to figure out, okay, what is your plan to get out of this? Is it saving up money so you can call them one day and say, hey, I'll give you $2,000 to pay this off in full? Because they're probably dismissing a lot of this or discounting it because it's been 4 years from this. And so we got to figure out how can we get you out of this situation. On the debt side, any other debts outside of the money that's in collections right now?
No.
And then let's jump over to assets then. What assets do we have?
None right now. No assets right now.
Okay. You don't have a car?
No,
Okay, no vehicle, no retirement accounts. Do we
no.
have anything in savings right now?
Yeah, I do have 1,000 in savings right
So
now.
$1,000 in savings, that puts your total assets at $1,000 and total debts at 7 to 8,000. So plus another 1,000 potentially. That puts your net worth at negative $6,000. Have you ever calculated your net worth or looked at your net worth before?
I have
Well,
not.
it's negative right now, and we got to figure out on this call, how do we get you from a spot that's negative $6,000 to a spot that it is growing, that it is increasing every single month, and that you can go enjoy things in life, spend money on things you want, travel, get a car, get a apartment of your own, help your children too, and be able to afford things that they want to do without stressing about it. So that's the main point of these conversations. I want to have open, honest conversations with you so we can figure out right now, you put yourself at a 6. Right now, I'd probably put you at a 1 or a 2, because having 2 teenage daughters, I know kids are not cheap. I know they want things. I know you want to give them things. And having 2 teenage daughters with $1,000 in your savings account, with credit card debt and collections for the last 4 years, that's not a spot I want you to be in. I want you to be in a spot where you can save and invest money, where you can afford to, if your daughter wants to go shopping, you can take her shopping. If you want to take them on a vacation, you can take them on a vacation one day. Right now, you're not in a spot that you can enjoy those types of things without worrying and stressing about money, because the income isn't coming in that we need to, and we have debt, and we don't have stuff saving in the savings account. So that's everything we're going to talk about throughout this conversation, is how do we improve this current situation, and how do we change your future and also your kids' future? Because every single thing that you start doing and teaching your kids about in terms of finances today is only going to help them in their future and their lives, with their relationships with their kids and their kids' kids. So it all starts with you, is how do you change your financial tree of your family? And it's by you taking action, making changes, and teaching your children along the way of it all. So how does that sound?
Sounds
Like I said,
good.
what has your financial outlook been, or what have you tried to do to change your financial situation over the last few years?
I think my main priority is that today you almost need two incomes, you know what I mean, combined. So I kind of made the attempt to fix my credit, to kind of get in a more different spot, elevate. And that does help a little bit. But my problem is that I need to make more income, because it's difficult to save at the same time, if you're not making what you want to make, what you need to
Yeah.
make.
Right now, with your income where it's at, you're working 25 hours a week, so you're not working a full 40 hours and $14 an hour. It's very difficult to make ends meet if you're making that. If you're working 40 hours a week, yes, that would increase your income, but you're well below the median income in America. And so how do we get you to that spot where you can get towards a median range income in America and be able to start saving money? Because right now, there's no chance of saving any money right now when you're bringing in $1,000 a month.
Yeah, that's true.
So the median income in Indiana right now is, individual income is $35,639, according to my quick little Google search in 2022. So bringing in $1,200 a month, you are $20,000 basically lower than the median income. So that means we have a long way to go to get you to that one spot, just so you have the median. So that's one thing we got to figure out. How can you be making $18 an hour and work 40 hours a week? You'll be making roughly the median income of about $35,000, $36,000. And that will propel your financial future forward if you can do that and continue to spend the way you are, so you can start saving money and investing it too. So, but before we kind of dive into your current monthly budget, I kind of want to take it back to how we got here, how we got to your current financial situation and where you're at. And I want to understand kind of a little bit more about you and about your family and your upbringing. So where did you grow up, and how did your parents approach money as a child?
So originally, I'm from Michigan. I moved to South Holland, Illinois with my family after high school. So we grew up in Michigan. After that, I kind of branched off, got my own apartment. I was working in a warehouse at that time. So I ended up meeting my ex-husband, and he's originally from Gary. And we had children, my 2 girls. And unfortunately, after 9 years of marriage, we ended it, got a divorce. And that's what kind of led me here, to have to rebuild all over again and all of those type of things.
Let's
So
take it back even further, though. So to your parents, as you're growing up living in Michigan and Indiana, how did they approach money, and how did you kind of see them spend money?
my father, he was in the Army. He only did 3 years though, but he worked at a foundry and he worked very hard. So he brought in a nice income. My mother was a social worker, and I saw them being a team growing up we didn't really want for anything. So we were kind of, I guess, in a median range. What did they used to call it? Middle class. So they didn't mind, getting us things that we needed, a lot of things that we wanted. So they spent a lot, but they also made a lot. And they taught me, hey, get what you can, save money, put money aside, things like that. So basically, like, save money, make money, put it away for a rainy day, don't overspend, things like that.
Sounds like we didn't quite follow that to a T when we got $7,000 worth of credit card debt.
Right.
On the credit card debt side, you said that's from about 4 years ago. Where did that money get spent? What was it spent on, if you remember? And what was kind of going through your mind as that credit card bill was kind of racking up?
I think maybe like just, shopping for my daughters, just clothes and things, that they liked, and mostly phone bills. I had a contract with T-Mobile, so that ate up a lot of the funds and things like that. So having two girls and them wanting different things as little girls, I think that had a lot to do with it. And the fact that I overcompensated a lot of spending because of the divorce, try to cheer them up and things like that. So
it sounds like a lot of the spending was unnecessary in regards. It's more of a once and more of, hey, obviously you're going through a lot, the kids are going through a lot, and you were trying to overcompensate with it. So it's spent on frivolous things or material things that weren't necessarily needed to keep the lights on.
yes.
So what has happened in the last 4 years when it comes to credit cards? So that money, it sounds like, went into collections 4 years ago. And because your credit score has been poor, is that why you don't have any credit cards right now? Or did you decide, hey, I'm just going to stop using a credit card?
Definitely stop using credit cards. I find it's too tempting because once you start using one, you want to get another and another, and it's ongoing, and you don't realize that you're putting yourself in more debt.
I'm so proud of you that you came to that realization and said, hey, I'm going to stop using a credit card. And so obviously you kind of hit that brick wall with the money going to collections and saying, hey, I can't afford the $7,000, but you stopped trying to get credit cards. I don't know if you would have gone approved for a credit card, so I don't know if it matters, but you have come to the realization, hey, credit cards are bad for me. Let's stay away from them because it's only going to hurt your financial situation when you don't have income coming.
Yes, the interest rate is so fun.
Okay, let's dive through your monthly transactions then. So you sent over to me, we got $1,200 in net income. We've got rent right now. You said $200. Is that what you have to pay to live in the apartment complex right now?
Yeah.
Okay, and we got utilities, $160. I'm assuming that's like water, gas, Wi-Fi.
Yes.
And then you have home maintenance for $240. What is that for?
Maintenance, that's basically like, different household items. You might need like personal products for your house, cleaning supplies. Maybe your chair might get broken, so you might need like tools or something like that.
So that puts your total housing expenses at $600. We've got groceries, you put $700. We've got $0 for auto transport because you don't have a vehicle. Do you use public transportation, or how do you get different places right now?
Uber.
Okay, so we do have auto and transport expenses. They're just not in this current category. How much do you think you spend on a month on Uber right now?
Probably, let's see, at least about 300.
Okay, and is there public transportation in your town or a bus system at all?
It is.
There is? Okay. Is that accessible to you, or is that far from your house?
No, not at all. It's just that with the public transportation, they take forever. Uber gets you there and back, so at your destination. So
I get that it gets you there and back, but right now, between rent, groceries, and Uber, we're at $1,600 a month in expenses, and you're bringing in $1,200. So we got to figure out, how do we get that income up so that you can afford to Uber, afford these groceries, and afford your rent. But right now, we got to figure out, how do we fix this? And that's just one thing that, hey, I know public transportation is slower. It's not as clean or nice as an Uber, but what are some things that you can change to have more flexibility in your budget right now versus spending every single dollar that comes in? And then on the fun side of money, we have $9 for subscriptions, $40 for eating out, $26 for entertainment, $75 for gifts and donations, $97 for personal care, $85 for shopping, and $250 for travel, which brings your total fun money budget to $582, which would put your total living expenses all the way up to $2,183. How are we making ends meet if we're spending that much money right now?
Like the multiple streams, that's why I have I do the very best I can. I also do live stream to have that income too. And I'm also a TV actress. So the movie jobs that I do, they're like 300, 500, or 400 here and there in Chicago. So that also helps as well with a little bit more.
Okay, so how much you bringing in a month between those gigs plus the streaming stuff?
Altogether, an extra maybe 400 or 500, but it's rare. It's not.
It's not every single month.
No.
Okay, so that means we got to figure out how do we get your income up. I think is the biggest problem right now. And then some of these unnecessary expenses, like you put $250 for traveling. Are you actually traveling right now?
Not right now.
Okay, so like things like traveling, those things should not be in your budget right now when we need money to survive for roof over our head. Some of the subscriptions are eating out, gifts and donations. I know you want to get your daughters things or birthday presents, but those have to be also very minimal right now when we've got to figure out how do we build your future, because right now you're 41 years old, so you have the opportunity to start making changes before you turn 67, retirement age, and you can change your financial future drastically between now and then. But if you don't, if you spend all your money on shopping for your kids, for yourself, on birthdays, Christmas, everything else in between, then by the time you get to retirement age, Social Security might not be around. Social Security might only fulfill 40% of your income, and you're not going to have any retirement saved up, and you're going to be dependent on your children. So that new holiday gift you're getting them, when that could be invested and saved for the future, for your future retirement, is going to come back to bite you and them if you're going to have to ask them for money living with them because you can't afford to live when you're older. So that's what we got to figure out right now is what are some things that we can cut out of these expenses so that you can afford to live. You were throwing money at material things to try to get through some of the tough times that we're going through, but I don't think that brings true happiness. I think doing that from a place of peace and a place of a solid foundation is going to be a lot more fulfilling. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
So we're going to go through these different bank statements that you sent over. So you sent me over the last 3 months statements. So we're going to start in January. So the first transaction I've got on here, Elena, is DoorDash for $23 on January 22nd. Why are we DoorDashing food? That's one of those things, Elena, that I want you to live life, but if we're throwing money away to DoorDash, I mean, DoorDash prices are marked up, then you got the tip, then you got the delivery fees, everything else in between. You probably paid $23 for a meal that was probably $10 at the actual restaurant, let alone the grocery store, probably could have made it for $5 or $6.
Yep.
Do you DoorDash frequently?
Not that often. I gotta say, I guess like my guilty pleasure right now, just kind of unfortunately indulging in things. You know, my father just passed 3 weeks ago, and I just have really been trying to do things to make me happy more so. And I know it's terrible because it's eating up the extra funds that I do have when I do, and it's not good.
And first, I'm sorry for the loss of your father. I know that's not easy, but also I know you need to grieve. I need you to take care of yourself, but also DoorDashing food, eating when you're not happy is also probably not the best thing in the world to do either from a health perspective. And so you got to figure out what are things that you can do to take care of yourself. Is it finding a local park that you can walk to? Is it finding a river walk or something you can walk on and take care of yourself? Get outside, get fresh air, get sunshine. That's going to make you feel a lot better than DoorDashing food and getting a big greasy meal or pizza or whatever it might be. I think that getting outside and finding ways to take care of yourself mentally and physically outside of the house that are free, that don't cost $25 on DoorDash, is going to be a lot more freeing and save money in your pocket so that you can save money as well and get out of debt. So you said you didn't DoorDash much, but we got DoorDash on the 22nd of January for $23. We got DoorDash on the 20th for $28. DoorDash again on the 20th for $35. DoorDash on the 6th for $31. DoorDash on the 5th for $20. So we got like 5 or 6 different DoorDash transactions in a single month. And we're going to see how has that progressed in February and March when we look through those statements. But again, I'm just trying to point out these are things that you have to decide what's more important. Is it the short-term satisfaction of DoorDashing that meal now, or is the long-term satisfaction of being able to build a financial base for you and your family and changing your family tree forever by building a good, solid foundation.
Yeah.
Rent a center, e-commerce, $93 on January 20th. What is that for?
I'm renting, basically my entire apartment is furnished with Rent a Center. I have a desktop computer, I have a laptop, I have my bedroom set, my girl's bedroom set, TV, a PS5, and a sofa.
Oh, wow. So you're paying a monthly like subscription fee, basically. Is that forever until you decide to stop having that furniture? Or what does that look like?
I'm almost done paying it off, but yeah, that's every week.
Okay, so it's finance. It's not rented. Like you get to keep it when you finish the payments.
Right, it's fine.
Okay, and how much is left on that balance?
See, about 400 left.
Oh, sweet. So you're almost at the end then. Okay, so that is technically another debt if we have $400 in furniture, but I'm super excited that is almost done for you then.
Yeah.
But that's also not in the budget, so we got to put that somewhere in the budget too of where's that going. So I'll put that under $93 a month, almost done. How long has that taken to pay that down? Like how long has the term on that financing been?
I believe I have about less than a year to go.
Was it 3 years? How long was the term? 3 years, 4 years, 2 years?
It was 3 years.
Also, I'm going to be completely honest. It is wild that they put like a PS5 into that financing of a apartment. I mean, I didn't realize you go there and finance a PS5 from a furniture store. So that is one of the bad things about those types of things, or Klarna or buy now, pay later, is you didn't have the cash to buy that PS5, but guess what? You threw it on there, added a couple extra bucks to your monthly payment, and that's how they make more money. So it's like same thing with the credit card, is you realize that is bad, that made you spend more money. Same thing with these financing terms of furniture. Same with buy now, pay later, is they make you spend more money than you actually have in your bank account, which just increases your spending, which is not a good thing. So
you're right about that.
So no more to that. No more financing furniture. No more. I hope I don't see any buy now, pay later or Klarna payments on these transactions.
No.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we have on here? We've got your Comcast. We've got your utilities. What is Lucky Land?
That's the casino.
Elena, you're going to the casino right now?
You know what, Bailey? I invested $20 a couple years back, and I end up winning $5,000. So I guess you could say that it's kind of a hobby for me every now and then. I do win like smaller.
Elena, can I tell you something that'll change your life?
Yeah.
Stop gambling, because there's a reason casinos are big and beautiful and nice. It's not because their customers win. It's because the house always wins. It's because they make money. And yes, you had that one victory of $5,000. That is when you stop and you never show up to the casino again, because that means you made $5,000 off of them. But guess what? That was a couple years ago, and we've got, I don't know how many, they're $2 transactions at Lucky Land, but there's a bunch of them on here, and you're just gambling all that money away, and they're making the money right back. And they're getting you in there for food, for drinks, everything else between probably, and they're making their money right back on you. If you have $1,000 in your bank account and you've got 2 daughters, the last thing you should be doing is gambling. Just stop the gambling. Don't do lotteries. It's just, the odds are not in your favor.
Yeah, that's true.
How often do you gamble?
I want to say maybe 3 times a month.
How much is it each time?
Maybe 20 here, 50 there.
Elena, come on. We got to stop that. I guess I'm going to see more of these transactions as we go through here, but that is not something I want to see at all for you. What is Chumba Gold Coins?
That's a casino. I played 2 different ones.
Are these just apps? Wait, you're playing slots online?
Yes.
And casino games online? You're kidding me.
No, that's the one that I won the $5,000 from.
That's even worse. I thought you were going to, I don't know what is worse, honestly, the going to casino in person or the casinos online. Are these apps on your phone?
Yeah.
Can you do me a massive favor right now and delete them off of your phone?
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like, if you truly want to improve your financial situation, what you will do after this phone call is you will delete those off your phone. If you want to be able to buy things for your daughters, if you want to be able to enjoy life, go on vacation, I can promise you deleting these off of your phone will only improve your financial situation. Yes, you read a story about someone winning big in the lottery, winning millions of dollars, but for every person that wins money, do you know how many people lose money? A lot more. A lot more. And so the odds are not in your favor. And I don't want you to just waste away your money when we're barely able to make ends meet on casino and gambling things. It just doesn't make sense to do that.
Yeah.
What is MoonPay?
That's Bitcoin.
Why are we buying Bitcoin right now when we don't have money to survive?
You know what, Bailey? I guess I was just kind of like, maybe I should try investing in something. So what not other than Bitcoin to see if I can get a certain percentage back and just seeing how that goes.
We'll talk about investing at the end of this, but when it comes to investing, when you have debt, when you have stuff in collections, when you don't have an emergency fund set up, you need to be making sure you're getting an emergency fund set up and debt paid off before we start investing. And things like cryptocurrency, yes, they have performed very well the last few years. Who knows where it's going in the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years? I don't know. But it's a very risky investment. And if you're investing and that's all the money you're investing, I would not suggest putting everything into crypto. We'll talk about that investing a little bit, but that is another thing that we should not be doing right now. So this was January. So during this time period, you spent $700. So frankly, you didn't spend that much money, but only $652 came in. So now we'll go into February. So February, we had $1,000 come in and $1,000 went out. Do you know what your balance ended on February 29th with?
What?
Negative $14.40. So you ended January with negative $4.22. And you could have had money in your bank account if you didn't and put $100 into crypto, if you didn't gamble a lot of money away and we didn't DoorDash. I mean, that is at least between those different things, we got at least $200, $250 in there. And so these are financial decisions and habits you have to change with the DoorDashing, with the gambling, and with the investing in a cryptocurrency when you're in your current position. If you are saving money, investing money every single month, have no debt, then great. We can set up budgets for eating out like DoorDash. We can set up budgets for, actually, we're not even going to set up budgets for gambling. You can't afford to lose $100. You can't afford to lose $50 to even put food on the table. We can't be doing things like gambling. And then investing, great. I want you to have, right now you're thinking, how do I invest? How do I start building wealth? And putting money in investments is something you definitely need to do in your current situation to be able to change your family tree. But right now we have to take care of the now, which is saving money, getting out of debt, building an emergency fund for when stuff happens. If you want to get a car, we got to save for that. And then we start figuring out, okay, let's start saving and investing for retirement in the future. So February transactions, we got more Lucky Land. We got Lucky for, that's $20 there. We got $25 on Chumba Gold Coin. We've got, how many Chumba transactions do we have on this? We've got like 4 or 5 Chumba transactions. Credit Karma deposited $43 to your bank account. What did they deposit money for?
I don't remember.
Okay, so the gambling continues. Now we got DraftKings.
Oh, yeah, the sports bet.
Again, that needs to be gone. I mean, for this month in February, we've got DraftKings for $5, DraftKings for $25, DraftKings for $6, another $5, DraftKings for another $5, DraftKings for $11. I can't even say it this many times in a row. DraftKings for $6, DraftKings for $10, DraftKings for $10. That's over $50 gone, $60 probably gone, just betting. And right now, again, you ended your bank statement with negative $14 in your bank account. There is no justification right now for gambling, for sports betting, for any of that stuff right now. Odds are not in your favor. If you want to make money, if you want to make your money grow, then we got to figure out, how do you get a full-time job that pays you more money? How do we start saving for an emergency fund? And then how do we start investing in safe investments like ETFs and index funds that have a historical return and they're backed by equity in public entities? So right now, this is not the approach that we need to be taking to change your financial tree. We've got Roblox Premium, it looks like, for $5. We got DoorDash for $80. So on February 22nd, $22 on February 22nd for DoorDash. We've got more Lucky transactions. We have a bunch of Apple transactions, assuming these are all more gambling slot casino games.
The Roblox, that's for my daughters. They do some kind of video games or something.
So with daughters, we got to have that budget too in there. So like, okay, one thing you can do to start teaching your daughters about personal finance is, okay, their Roblox premium is $5. You want to give them maybe $20 each month or $10 each month for stuff. Say, okay, this is the money that you get each month. And when you spend all of it, that's no more. So you give them $20 at the beginning of each month. Each time they want to buy something, they have to give you that cash. And when their cash runs out and they say, hey, mom, I want to buy this shirt, I want to buy this dress, I want to buy this video game. You say, hey, okay, where's your money? And they either have to learn to save it or they can't buy it. And that's one thing you can do to start changing your kids' financial future, to start educating them about how money works in that degree right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Have you thought about doing that before?
No, I should.
Are you open to trying that with them?
Definitely.
Because I think that will help you. Instead of you telling them no, it is, hey, honey, do you have money to buy it? And they'll know because they either have that money saved in their wallet or drawer or whatever it is, and they can pay mom for it, or they can't buy it. And it's not you saying no, it's you saying, hey, do you have the money to pay for it? And that's how you teach them how to not, same thing like with the credit card. Right now, they're running out the credit card right now on mom, and mom's got to pay for it. And they're going to go to collections and mom's the collecting agent right now. You can teach them right now that, hey, operate on cash basis. If you don't have the cash to pay for it, you're not buying it.
Right.
Let's see what else we got here. We got More Lucky. We've got Shein for $10. So buying clothing online for $10. We've got DoorDash for $141 on February 12th. So we've got over $200 in DoorDash this month alone. We got another DoorDash for $10. I mean, the amount of lucky transactions are just, there's a lot on here that are small, just little transactions. We got Amazon for $97 on February 7th. Do you know what that was for?
Yeah, I think just basic, personal, cute little products and stuff.
Do you have Amazon Prime?
I do.
Cancel that too. Little things like that. Deleting the apps, the gambling, slot games, DraftKings from your phone, unlinking them for your bank account, and deleting stuff like Amazon Prime is only going to help you spend less money and be a lot more mindful of it. And it's going to force you to go to the store to buy things. But guess what? It causes friction in that transaction process. So you might not spend as much money as you would have online. It makes it a lot easier to buy stuff online than going in person and swiping the card. So
that's true.
Let's go to March now. So March, it says you spent $400 and you brought in $418. We got DoorDash again for $25. We got DoorDash for $27. We got Prize Picks for $11. But again, should not be sports betting when we have no money. I mean, you ended the month of March now with negative $15.66. So you ended April with negative $14 and ended March with negative $15. That's not a good spot to be in right now. I don't want that for you. You said you had $1,000 in your bank account right now. Is there actually $1,000 or where is that? Because I don't see that in here.
I have a different account.
Okay, so that's what that savings account is, that you're transferring money into this account every single month, every few days. Okay, and so what you need to do is you need to keep that money in there and stop transferring. Any money that you spend needs to come in and out of this account where your income is coming in and where your expenses are, and don't touch that $1,000 because that needs to be there for a rainy day. If you have medical bills, if your daughters have an emergency or something, but that needs to be where you start building your emergency fund. We've got more Prize Picks. We've got more lucky transactions. I mean, you love these lucky transaction things. And what is ysipulse.com?
I have no idea what that is.
That is another social casino game. Play free social casino games online. So we've got another casino app that we like that has about $20 in transactions on that. We got more Chumba Gold coins. We got more lucky, a $50 lucky transaction. Chumba Gold coins, we've got $80 in transactions at the beginning of March. So we just have a lot of these different transactions of gambling and casinos and sports betting. So looking at this, I don't see your rent in here. I see your utilities and stuff, but there's a few problems and things that we need to solve for right now. One is the income. And income right now, bringing in $1,200 a month is not enough to survive. It looks like from your transactions, you haven't actually spent $1,200 or $2,000 like you said. I don't know if you have another spending account that I don't see right now. Do you have another spending account I don't have access to right now?
No.
Okay, so you haven't been spending actually $1,200 a month, which is good. But the issue is every single dollar these months that you've brought in has gone right out the door. And so first problem is income. And actually, I guess we're going to reverse it. First problem is spending, because you're spending every single dollar that you are bringing in, and it's not a necessity things. If it was for rent, if it was for food on the table, then okay, that's one thing. But right now, your spending problem is things on DoorDash. It is things on these casino games. It is on sports betting. It is on Bitcoin investments. And those are not necessities right now for you to live, for you to survive, for your kids to have a roof over their head. Problem number one is expenses. I'm worried for you because I want you to be in a spot when you're 65, 70 years old and you want to retire, and you can be in a spot that you can actually retire and you have optionality. But right now, where your choices are taking you in terms of prioritizing the short-term satisfaction of gambling, of casinos, of sports betting, you are prioritizing the short-term satisfaction, and that is hurting your financial future in the long term. So first priority is expenses. You have to cut out everything that's not necessary. The door dashing, the gambling, the sports betting, the Bitcoin investments, all those need to go. And that will put you in a spot where you can actually save money every single month. I mean, these last few months, you've had at least $200 to $300 transactions every single month on those different types of things. And so instead of having negative $14 in this bank account to end March, you should have had $800, $900 sitting in there because you didn't waste money on DoorDash, on casinos, and everything else in between. And that would put you in a much better financial situation. You'd have $2,000 to your name versus $1,000 right now. And that is just by eliminating a few things that are not healthy for you, and you'll be in a much better financial spot from that. So number one, expenses. You've got to budget. Budget your expenses, cut everything out unnecessary. And if you don't know how to budget or you've never set up a budget before, I'll send you some resources on that so you can learn and figure out, this is my income, this is my expenses for the month, and this is where every single dollar is going during that month when that money comes in. Number two problem is income. $1,200 a month is not going to allow you to live, allow you to save anywhere in this country. It's just frankly not enough, especially when you have two teenage daughters. And so for you, you got to start figuring out, instead of spending time gambling, instead of spending time on those types of things, spend your time finding a new job, finding a full-time job, hustling, whether it's finding something that's a walkable place, that's a retail shop that you can work at, or a store, grocery store, or finding stuff online that's remote. There's plenty of opportunities in your space in the customer support world. And so you got to figure out, how can I go and make $15 to $20 an hour for 40 hours a week? And that alone will increase your income because you'll get more hours. And so when you're making more money, that's going to put you in a much better financial situation. You'll be able to save more money. But when you make more money, the problem is you can't go and spend all that on shopping, on gambling. You have to keep your expenses the same way they are right now. So you can start building a foundation, start building a savings, and then you can start allocating more money towards entertainment or eating out or your daughters. Right. So expenses then income are the two biggest things you have to focus on and work on. I want you to be applying to at least 10 jobs a day, online, in person.
It's funny that, Bailey, because I literally just got hired at a rise.com company. It's remote. So I get to pick, the 500 Fortune companies, which one I want to work for, which one I want to service. And they range from 15 on up. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Nice. So you're working. Okay. So is that a customer support platform, Arise?
Wait.
Okay. So they're going to be paying you 15 an hour and they'll be giving you 40 hours a week?
Yes. 30 to 40 a week.
Okay, great. So even then, if they're only giving you 30 hours, how can you still work 10 or 15 hours on your current 1099 job so you can increase your income and get a full 40 hours? But that's exciting and awesome that you have gotten this. I don't want you to stop there, because even then with $15 an hour, you'll be about $30,000 a year in income, and the median in Indiana is 36. So how can we even get that up a little bit further to get to the median, or at least a little bit above it? Because I want you to be in a spot where you're growing and you're moving up and not just complacent for the next 5 or 10 years in this spot. So always want to push for more. But that is super exciting for you, and I'm happy for you. So you're solving the number two of income. But the biggest problem that I see and that Americans have is they get the new income, they get the new paycheck, and they start making more money, but they don't save any money and they don't invest any money. And that is because of lifestyle creep. And that is because if you don't budget, you don't track your expenses, that money coming in is going to go out the door just as quickly as it came in. And so you really have to be very mindful and intentional about your money, especially as that new income starts coming in. So that's very important why budget's important. That's very important why you stop spending on things like the casino, the gambling, the DoorDash, because that new paycheck coming in, you'll be like, oh, $50 in DraftKings, that's easy. I'm making more money. But guess what? That's going to add up. All those transactions are going to add up, and it's going to go out the door just very quickly. So that is very important why you have to set a budget, stick to it, and track your expenses. But that is super exciting that you got the new opportunity, and I'm happy for you. Now, so how do we snowball that into changing your financial future? So after solving for the expenses with a budget, solving for the income with your new job that you said you're getting right now, the last thing we have to figure out is paying off this debt and then investing. So paying off the debt. What I would do if I was you in your shoes is you have $7,000 in collections. I would be figuring out, how do I save $4,000 to $5,000 in my savings account so that I can call collections, set aside the $1,000 that's in your emergency fund right now. That'll be a baseline, and then save an additional $4,000 or $5,000 in your account so you can call these collection companies one day and say, hey, I have a balance of $7,000. I'll give you $2,000 today for it. And if they say no, call them back a week later and say, hey, I have $3,000, and see if you can pay pennies on the dollar for that collection amount and pay that off and be done with it, because they're going to get their wages from you no matter what. It's going to be sold so many times to different people. They're going to garnish your wages, your bank account, and it's not going to be pretty. So I would rather you be proactive about it, save up as much money as possible, and start trying to negotiate with them on paying that off for as little as possible that you possibly can. With that, you'll be debt-free and be able to start investing and saving for the future. And so that's the next thing you have to figure out is saving money to pay off debt. Does that make sense?
It does. So is that kind of similar to consolidating almost?
Consolidation, I guess the best way to explain it is if you have multiple debts, if you have 6 different debts, you have student loans, a car loan, 10 credit cards, and you consolidate that all to one single loan. Maybe it's a lower interest rate typically, but it's just one. You have multiple loans, multiple different people, and you consolidate it down to one loan and one individual. Debt settlement is different. Debt settlement is when you go to the collections agency and you say, hey, I have $7,000 balance with you. I'll give you $3,000 or $4,000, whatever they'll take to get rid of that loan and wipe it off the face of the planet. So consolidation and settlement are a little bit different. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
So since your loans are already in collections, if you had like 6 different credit cards right now that had a $5,000 balance or a $1,000 balance, then it might make sense to consolidate it down to one loan that has a lower interest rate. Right now, you're already in collections. What makes the most sense is save as much money as possible so you can call them and try and settle that debt completely for pennies on the dollar.
Okay.
That would be the first plan of attack as you save up money. After you pay off the debt in collections, your next milestone will be, well, actually, one thing we didn't touch on is the furniture loan. So with your new income coming in, I would try to pay off that furniture loan within a month or two. Throw an extra $100 at it, $200 at it. If you're bringing in hundreds of dollars more a month, let's just throw that at the furniture loan, because guess what? When you're done with that early, you'll have $100, $200 back in your monthly account because you're not spending the $95, whatever it is a month with them. So you might as well try to pay that off as quickly as possible, be done with it, and that money will stay in your pocket months forward and you can wipe it off the face of the planet. And then after that, you have to figure out what is the emergency fund that you want to build. And typically people say 3 to 6 months of expenses. So if your monthly expenses are $2,000, $3,000, then we'll call it $2,000, because right now I think you have it at what he told me is just over $2,000. So that means you need 3 to 6 months of expenses. That means you need to save between $6,000 and $12,000 and put it in a high yield savings account that you don't touch. It's never used, never transferred, but only in the case of emergencies, in case of medical emergencies, in case of you don't have a vehicle right now. So in case of you had a flat tire, for example, if you owned a house, water leaks, but that is, or for example, you get laid off from your job and it's going to take you 30 days to find a new job, then you have that emergency fund to help in those times. It's not to go spend frivolously or go on a vacation. It is only for emergencies. So that's what you do as you get the debt paid off, is start saving for emergencies, especially when you have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
After that, my plan for you is like, where do you want to go? What are your future goals? Is your future goals to have your own apartment that is not in this current community? Or if you want to stay in this community, great, you can do that too. But if you have goals and aspirations of moving to a different city or having a different apartment, then you have to start figuring out how much money do I need to save? How much money do I need to be making in order to afford a new apartment? And so I'll send you some resources on how housing costs and stuff of that work as well. But that's something you have to think about too, is if you aren't always going to be in that apartment, you have to make sure you're saving and understanding how does that affect your budget if you move out and you have a $800 a month rent payment versus $200 right now, and see how does that change your financial future.
Yeah.
And then also after that, car. We got to talk about a car as well. You might want to get a car one day. And the last thing I want you to do is go and finance a car, because you walk in that car dealership and say, hey, I'm financing a car. It's the same thing as a credit card. They're going to talk you into buying the nicest, best looking vehicle that your car loan is going to be spread out over 8 years. You're going to have a 5 to 15% interest rate on it. And it is going to just pull all the money from your bank account every single month. And that's not a spot I want you to be in. I want you to be in a spot where you can save up money and pay cash for a car and be able to walk out of that car dealership without a car payment, because the way car dealerships work these days, they stretch loans out for 7-8 years. The interest rates on them are astronomically high right now. And that's not something I want for you. I want you to be able to have no debt payments, not financing furniture, not financing cars, and be able to enjoy the vehicle and not feel overwhelmed by it. Does that make sense?
It really does. 7, 8 years is a very long time.
Yep. Car loans used to be like 3 years, and now they're stretching them out to like 96 months is what I've seen some loans going for, which is just insanity, from 36 months to 96. But because you walk in there and they say, hey, what do you want your monthly car payment to be? And you'll say $500. And they'll say, oh, we can make that work. Here's a loan for 8 years at a 14% interest rate. You're under the $500. Why does it matter? And it just destroys your financial future.
Yeah.
And then apart from that, investing. You talked about investing, wanting to invest, wanting to build a solid foundation. And so first and foremost, we have to get our income up, expenses down. We have to get this debt cleared up. We have to get an emergency fund and start figuring out, where do you want to spend money? Is it on a apartment? Is it on a car? Getting that in order. And then after that is investing. Right now, you're in your 40s, in your early 40s, so you still have time on your side when it comes to investing, but you also have to start getting this under wraps in the next 6 to 12 months, because every single year that you wait, it only hurts your financial future. So the saying is, invest early and often. And so that means you're better off investing as early as possible, as much as possible, because time on your side is only helpful when it comes to investing in compound interest. So right now, investing, and that does not mean go invest in crypto, does not mean go and invest in penny stocks or single stocks. The best way of investing, in my opinion, is buying index funds. Are you familiar with what index funds are?
No.
So this is all after debt's paid off, income's stable, and we have an emergency fund, and we have our life planned out for car and apartment. Investing in index funds is basically buying a basket of stocks. So imagine a basket that's filled with 500 individual stocks in there, and you're buying that entire basket. So you might own, for example, the S&P 500 is the 500 largest companies in the United States. So you've got companies like Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, all in there. So you're buying a basket that owns bits and pieces of 500 different stocks. So if company one does really well, great. But if company number 35 in that basket goes to zero, guess what? Your investment doesn't go to zero, because you have bits and pieces of 500 different stocks in there. So it helps diversify your investments. So I'm not the next Warren Buffett. I'm not going to go here and sit here and pick the next company that's going to multiply by 100 over the next 5 years. I've tried that. I've lost too much money doing that. It's kind of like gambling in the casino. I realize I'm not going to make money doing this, so I need to stop. I'm going to do stuff that is strategic, that is smart, and has a proven track record. So if I'm betting on the top 500 companies in the United States, or even the top 1,000, or even the top 2,000, there's a lot of different index funds out there. I know for a fact that will outperform my investments if I picked individual stocks, because I don't read the P&Ls. I don't have ownership in these companies that have a controlling vote or factor in it. And I can't control economic outcomes, whether it's war, whether it's COVID, whether it's anything else in between. So I need to diversify across baskets of companies, and that will do a lot better than me sitting here picking and choosing a slot machine, basically, in a single stock. Does that make sense?
It really does.
And so that way you have the upside of companies doing well, but you don't have the downside of them all falling apart. And yes, in theory, if the entire U.S. economy went to zero, your investments would be worth zero. But the entire U.S. economy goes to zero, and all the top 500 companies in the United States go to zero, we've got a lot bigger problems on our hands in our investments, because that means the world is not doing well.
Yeah.
That is something that I want you to educate yourself about. I want you to start learning about it, but it's not something you need to start doing today, because we have a lot of things to take care of before then, with budgeting, with getting your expenses down, income up, and paying off this debt, and building an emergency fund, then looking at buying a car or an apartment. So we have a lot of steps we need to get to before we start investing, but that's kind of the overall premise of investing in index funds. Is diversification, and it helps just spread you across dozens or hundreds of companies, which only benefits you. So does that make sense?
It really does, Bailey.
Awesome. So last thing I want to talk about, you talked about wanting to get your credit score up. Your credit score was 400. Now it's 600. Talk to me a little bit about why your credit score is important to you and why you want to improve that.
I don't want to live in an apartment forever, so I do want to own my own home, at least within 2 years time for me. So that's why it's really important to me to get it fixed way sooner than that. I was really surprised that it went from 400 to 600 in about 3.5 months.
Okay, so your goal is homeownership. I think that is a phenomenal goal to get to, and we'll add that on to the list of things, of steps you need to get to. A few things. Credit score, yes, credit score for buying a house. If you have a 400 credit score, you probably won't get approved for a loan. So that is important from that regards. But the best way for you to improve your credit score is to get this debt off your record, clear up the collections, because that is obviously hurting your credit score. Not going into further debt with car loans, with credit cards, anything else in between. And your credit score will just naturally increase by getting this stuff out of collections and paying that off. But home ownership is a great thing, but it can also be a horrific thing. And right now with your current situation, it might not be 2 years before you buy a house. It might be 3, it might be 4. But there's hope. There's definitely a possibility of doing it. But the things you have to think about is you need to have an emergency fund saved up before you buy a house. Because when you buy a house, you can't call your landlord to come fix your pipe. You can't call maintenance to come fix a leak. You have to take charge that, and you have to take on full financial responsibility of that. The first year I was in my house, my wife and I had $7,000 in expenses that we weren't expecting. We had a water line break and we had taxes, that our tax bill was completely incorrect for our escrow account. And so we had a $3,000 water break and $4,000 in taxes, and that we weren't expecting. And if you don't have an emergency fund saved up for that, if you don't have savings, that's going to be put on a credit card, and that's going to destroy your financial future. So that's very important why you have to have a fully funded emergency fund before you buy a house, after you've paid all closing costs, after you put your down payment down. I've had another friend, he was in his house for 3 months, and he had a leak in his basement. It cost him $30,000. And these are things that he can't just let his house flood every time it rains, because that will just destroy his house. I couldn't let my water pipe just continue to leak and not have running water in my house because I had to turn my water off. These are things you have to fix. So it's very important why you have to have an emergency fund saved up, because owning a house, I can promise you something's going to break, whether it's your AC unit, whether it's your heater, your water tank, your water lines, your roof, something's going to give out, and it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. And so I don't want you to get into buying a house when you're not financially ready for it. And so you got to have your income up from where it is right now. You've got to have your expenses held under a budget where you're saving and investing every single month. You have to have an emergency fund. I would prioritize getting a car over buying a house, because it's going to be more difficult to get places probably.
Yeah.
And then you need to start saving up for that down payment. And then when you do buy a house, you want that monthly payment, the way I like to look at it, no more than 25 to 30% of your net income. So if you're making, for easy math, if you're making $4,000 a month take home, then your monthly payment could be around $1,200. And that way you have money to save for maintenance. You have money for utilities, for landscaping, for termite control, for everything else that comes with a house that you don't have to deal with right now, because it's a lot more expensive than you think, home ownership. And so that's kind of ballpark I like to be in, because that gives you plenty of buffer for things that come up. I was reading an article earlier, or saw a video on social media, that someone spent like 45 or 50% of their net income on their mortgage alone. And that doesn't account for maintenance, doesn't account for utilities. And that puts you in a very tight financial bubble, is if you're spending that much money on your mortgage, because you can't save money, you can't invest money. And that's not the spot I want you to be in. I want you in a spot that's conservative, that you know that with that mortgage payment, you can afford to save money, a couple $100 a month for maintenance, and you can still be investing for the future. If you buy a house and that means you can no longer invest money, that's not a good financial situation to be in, because homes are not investments. They are, frankly, in my opinion, liabilities, because it just sucks money out of you when stuff breaks. But it is also a blessing to have a house, to be able to call it your house and build a family there, but it can also be a curse. So I like to look at houses as it is not an investment, it's a liability. And if I make money when I sell it one day, great. But I'm going in the mindset of this is going to cost me more money than I was originally expecting, and I just have to be financially smart about it. So that's what I want you to do, is be smart about buying a house, build that goal, save up a down payment for it, save up an emergency fund that you have after the down payment and closing costs. So you set yourself up for success, and you don't go buy a house, and then 6 months in, you're stressing about your financial situation because you don't have an emergency fund and your water broke or your roof's leaking. Does that make sense?
It does. We don't.
So be patient with it. You don't have to rush into buying a house in the next year or two. It could be 3 years. It could be 4 years. It could be 6 years. I don't know. It depends about getting your income up, saving money, and getting out of this debt. But just the one thing I don't want you to do is rush into it, because that is a 30-year loan probably you're signing up for, and it's difficult to get out of. There's closing costs and selling costs associated with it, and it's not something that you can get out of immediately in a day, and it's something that you're committing. It is the largest purchase of your life that you'll ever make. So you have to make sure that you go into it understanding your numbers, understanding your situation, and how it can impact your future. Does that make sense?
It
Well,
does.
Elena, what is one financial mistake that you've made in your life?
I kind of would say that just like how you are right now, your discussion with me right now, I wish that my parents would have done this. We kind of really never went off of a budget. We didn't really budget. It was just always like we went for what we wanted, we got what we wanted, and that habit long term has kind of really set me back. And that's what I have to get out
And
of.
I challenge you to, after this, start having those conversations open and honestly with your daughters. Start explaining to them how much things cost. Start explaining to them, hey, mom's saving to buy a house one day, mom's saving to buy a car, mom's saving for emergencies, and take them through that process. Hey, this is our budget for the month. This is your individual budget as a kid. This is how much money you get each month. And that is only going to help change their financial future if you have those conversations with them, because you wish your parents had those conversations and they didn't. So why don't you start making that change in your family tree and start having those same conversations that you wish your parents had with your now children? So
Definitely. I think a lot of times as parents, when our kids ask us for something and we're like, "Oh, you're going to have to wait because I don't have that right now." And then they're like, "Well, mom, how much do you have?" And we're kind of like, "Hey, that's none of your business. Stop being nosy." But we don't realize that it can be broken down to them and it should be explained. And I think, that's like you said, it's a taboo thing, and we don't really realize that as parents. So
100%. And I agree spot on. And that's part of the problem in America and why we've got $1 trillion worth of credit card debt and we've got car loans, auto loans, student loans, everything else out the wazoo. And it's just a taboo thing to talk about. And the only way that we can change is by having these open, honest conversations that we're having right now. And by you having those with your kids and everyone watching this to have those conversations with their families and start learning about their financial situation so that they can start taking action today, because the only person that can change your financial future is yourself. I can't sit here and change your future. I can sit here and tell you these are steps that I think you should do. And we kind of outlined all of those. But now at the end of the day, it comes down to how bad you want to change your financial situation, how bad you want to buy a house one day, how bad you want to change your kids and their kids' financial future by implementing these things in your life right now. So
the worst thing is that I've never budgeted. I've never done that. And I think like if I had, that would have made a huge difference.
it will really open up your eyes because you'll plug into a spreadsheet or on a tool and it's going to run up Lucky and whatever the other gambling casinos are. And you're going to see, I spent how much money on gambling last month? I spent how much money on DoorDash? And it's going to make you sick, frankly.
I couldn't believe it. Like, I mean, you're reading it to me from paper, and it's like, oh my gosh, I did not realize that I was spending this much in, doing that.
But when you do that 30 times in a month, 15 times in a month, it adds up quickly. And so that's why budgeting is very important, because you can actually see how much money you spend on different categories, how much money you spent during the month. And you can realize, okay, this is not healthy or this is not good. I'm way overspending. I need to cut back on these different categories.
I thank you for having me, and your suggestions really have been an eye opener to me, especially with the budgeting. We don't realize every day how important that is. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
If you enjoyed this episode, watch another video. YouTube thinks this video on screen will be your favorite.